Welcome to the Midlife Edit. This is a podcast for women who aren't broken, just becoming. For the ones who've spent years showing up, holding it together, and doing what was expected, and are now asking quieter, braver questions. This season is about turning the volume up on your voice, your health, your boundaries, your desires, and the life you actually want to live. No fixing, no pretending, just honest conversations about confidence, money, hormones, happiness, and coming back to yourself, with a little music along the way. I'm Jen, and this is the Midlife Edit. Hey friends, and welcome back to the Midlife Edit. Last week, we talked about clarity, about asking yourself what you actually want and being honest enough to hear the answer. And if you listened to last week's episode, you know there's a quiz that goes with it. So if you haven't taken it yet, I really encourage you to go do that. Not because it gives you the answer, but because it shows you where you are right now. This episode is for what comes after that. Because once you have clarity, there's usually this pause. And it's uncomfortable. Inside that pause, you're second guessing yourself, or there's fear. There's a lot of fear of the unknown, a lot of fear of, okay, now what? And I think a lot of us assume that once we know what we want, we should immediately feel confident or motivated. And when that doesn't happen, we think that there's something wrong. Friends, nothing's wrong. We're just standing at the edge of change. And sometimes change is scary. I was in Nashville last week for a leadership meeting, summit, whatever you want to call it. And it was very intimate. There was only about 10 of us, and it was great because there was a lot of back and forth communication, and we were encouraged to participate, and it was awesome. But a few things hit me in a way that I wasn't expecting. And one of the big things that we talked about was intentionality, how we show up every single day, not just when things feel exciting or aligned, because you know how easy it is to show up when something's exciting, right? Think about when you're going on vacation. How easy is it to get up the morning of the day that you leave for vacation? Super easy, right? You're excited, you're pumped, you can't wait to get out of the house and go on the plane or drive to your location or whatever. But what happens every other day? When it's the mundane, when it's the work, it's a little bit harder to get up, right? And somebody in this group that I was in asked a question that I thought I knew the answer to right away, but then I sat with it a little bit and it really stayed with me. And the question was, are you living in victimhood or are you living in victory? And at first I thought, definitely victory, right? I talk all about growth and resilience and everything that I've done and I've gotten through. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized something super uncomfortable. I spend a lot of time talking about my life in the past tense. What I've done, what I've handled, what I've survived. Almost like because I've done all of that, something should happen for me right now. And that's not victimhood, but it's also not really victory. And it reminded me of a conversation that I had before I left for Nashville. I was talking about a role at work that I had, and I kept talking about everything that I've done. Oh, I did all these great things. These are the, this was the job I was handed at the beginning, and I've done all these things now. And the person I was talking to stopped me and said, I don't want to hear about what your job description was. I want to hear about what you're going to do. And that hit me, not just professionally, but personally, because I realize how often I do that in my life. Friends, the past explains us. It just doesn't get to lead anymore. Midlife is a moment where we stop negotiating our future using outdated versions of ourselves. I'm not going to negotiate my future because I did X, Y, and Z in the past. going to negotiate my future because of what I'm doing right now in this moment and what I'm intending to do. Intentionality. So I know that I need to change some things, right? And I know that I'm not going to be perfect, but I need to be intentional. So when I catch myself stuck in that pause, these are a few things that I want to start doing. The first one, I want to catch myself explaining instead of choosing. So anytime I hear myself say, because of my past or after everything I've done, I need to take a pause. And I need to take that pause not to judge myself, but just to notice that I'm doing it. And then I want to ask myself one question. What does showing up look like today? Not forever, not perfectly, just today. The second thing I want to do is I want to stop waiting for confidence and start practicing presence. Because I'm like everybody else. I used to think that confidence came before action, just like motivation. Oh, I'm not motivated to do something, so I'm not going to do it. Okay, calling bullshit, right? You don't just wake up one day and have confidence. Confidence comes from participation. You have to do the thing to get confident in it, right? So instead of asking, am I ready? I'm going to ask, am I present? Am I showing up to do the thing? And that's the shift that I need to make. The third thing I want to do is I want to check how I show up for myself versus how I show up for others. I need to start asking myself, how do I show up for others? And then how do I show up for myself? And how do they compare? So, something that I want you to think about too is if I had to give my body, my energy, my self talk, my habits to the person I love the most for one day, would I be okay with them seeing how I treat myself? Would I treat them the way that I treat myself? So I'm taking me and I'm putting them in that. So I'm giving me to them and they're living in my body for a day, whether it's my health habits or my mindset or how I talk to myself. Am I okay with them being like that to themselves? That question doesn't shame me, but it does give me more information. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to start to talk it out instead of spiraling alone. I heard actually, if you are a fan of Alex Cooper on the podcast Call Her Daddy, she said today, I was listening to a podcast of hers today, and she said, sometimes you can't get better without other people. And to me, that doesn't mean that everybody has to have a built-in support system. And it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong if you don't have that built-in support system. But it does mean that healing and growth don't always happen in isolation. Another quote that I heard, and I'm going to tie it into this, is in the absence of communication, there's hallucination. Especially with ourselves, right? Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say out loud, I'm stuck. Can you help me see this differently? If you are stuck in that mindset of going down a bad rabbit hole and you want to get out of it, or you think that you're doing something right and then all of a sudden something pops up and you're like, shit, maybe that's not the right answer. Find somebody that you trust. Find somebody who is not going to placate you. Find somebody who's going to call you out on your shit and look at them and say, hey, I'm stuck. Can you help me see this differently? That could be a game changer too. Okay, so we talked about last episode, we talked about asking for what you want, figuring out what you want, all of those things. So what happens when you get what you want? And what happens when you don't? And this is something that, obviously I've been thinking about because we talked about it in the last couple episodes. So what happens and what actually happens after the clarity when real life responds? You get clear about what you want, and then real life starts to trickle in, right? Sometimes you get what you want, and sometimes you don't. Both of those moments can fuck with you. So let's start with getting what you want. So let's say you get what you want, right? Honestly, that can be just as disorienting as not getting what you want. Because we think that getting what we want will finally calm us down. Like when it happens, I'll feel settled or confident or safe. Think about that. When I lose weight or when I make more money or when I find the love of my life, everything's going to be great. I'm going to tell you what I've noticed both personally and with watching other women. When we get what we want, we often do one of two things. The first one is uh, we move the goalpost. We barely let ourselves feel it and we downplay it. We say things like, well, this isn't the end goal. Or, okay, this is great, but now I need to, whatever the next step is. It's like we don't trust stillness. We don't trust that satisfaction. Or the other thing that we do is we attach our worth to repeating it. We start believing this proves I'm doing life right. And then suddenly the pressure is on. The pressure to maintain it or replicate it or just not to lose it. So even when we get what we want, we're still not really present. We're either rushing ahead or bracing for it to disappear. So what I want to start practicing is, and it's very much a practice because I'm not getting it right, obviously. And the more you practice, the more you get it right, right? But I'm going to start practicing letting good things land. I'm not going to explain them. I'm not going to earn them retroactively, and I'm not going to use them as proof. I'm just going to say, this happened. I'm here. And I don't need to immediately become someone else because of it. Okay. That's scenario A. We get what we want. But what about when you don't get what you want? When you're younger, you throw a fit and you cry. Hell, you still may do that now. No judgment here. But this is where midlife kind of hits differently. Because at this point in our lives, we've done a shit ton, right? We've grown and we've survived and we've shown up. So when something doesn't work out, there's this quiet little voice that says, wait, I did everything right. So what does that mean about me? This is where we start rewriting our worth based on outcomes. We tell ourselves bullshit stories like, maybe I waited too long, or maybe I missed the window, or maybe this is just how it goes for me. Are ready? Imposter syndrome creeps in. And yes, I know that term is overused, but in this case, it kind of fits. We are telling ourselves we should have never asked for it because who we are, right now isn't the person that should be asking for things. Like, are you asking yourself, who the hell am I to be asking for this because I don't deserve it? Or because I don't know what I'm doing? Or because I feel like a fraud? That's not clarity talking, guys. That's fear trying to protect us from disappointment. So here is a reframe that I want to try to work with. And honestly, I'm going to have to come back to it almost daily because I get in my own head, I get in my own way. An outcome is information. It's not an identity. I'm going to say that again. An outcome is information. It is not an identity. What happens to you is not who you are, you guys. And when something doesn't work out, I'm going to try to ask myself, what can I learn here without turning it into a verdict on myself? That's really fucking hard to do though, right? Because when you're disappointed or you're upset, it's really hard to reframe. Maybe I just need to take a deep breath and say, okay, what can I learn from this? And I think this is where we get stuck living in the past without realizing it. Because we used past effort to justify the present outcomes, right? In both directions. So if it works, we say, see, all my hard work paid off. But if it doesn't work, we say, After everything that I've done, all the things, all the sacrifices I made, this shouldn't have happened. But midlife isn't about proving the past mattered. It already did, right? It's about choosing how we show up now, regardless of how things turned out. So whether you get what you want or you don't, the practice stays the same. Staying present instead of chasing the next thing. Not using outcomes as proof of your worth. Letting good things land and letting disappointments teach without defining. I think midlife is the season where we stop asking, what does this say about me? And start asking, how do I want to show up, no matter what happens? That's the work that I'm in. I'm trying to work on myself, and these are the things that I'm trying to do to get better at it. And if you're in it too, you're not alone. It's deep, right? It's a lot of self-realization and sitting in our own shit and figuring it out. But midlife it has this almost chokehold on me in a good way. Like, okay, I can do this. I can work on myself. I'm going to figure out how I want to show up, even if bad things happen. Let's talk about the song for this episode, because this one is so fun to me, because it's a song that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. But the song for this episode is Rearview Mirror by Pearl Jam. Because this episode isn't pretending the past didn't shape us, but it's about deciding it doesn't get to drive anymore. Rearview Mirror is about forward motion, not running and not erasing, just choosing not to live in the past. That's why the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield, right? And why is this song so important to me? First off, I love it. It's a great song. Pearl Jam is one of my favorite bands, but a little over 5 years ago, I was listening to this song and I put it on my Facebook story and I get a DM. And who did that DM come from? The man I'm married to right now. So, Rearview Mirror is a song that's always going to be near and dear to my heart because it's the first conversation I had with my husband about the song and about music and what music means to me. Ugh, I'm getting a little emotional. I didn't even mean to. So go check out that song. Listen to it. Let it sit with you. If you're in the pause right now, you know that pause after clarity but before momentum, you're not behind. You're practicing. And sometimes it's exactly what moving forward looks like. Okay, so next week, I know you've heard me talk, and I just keep blah, 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 blah. And honestly, like a lot of this stuff is just, it's for you, but it's for me too, because these are the things that I'm working on in myself right now. And I know just from talking to some of you and to my friends and my peers everywhere, I know that a lot of us struggle with some of these things right now. So thanks for showing up. Next week, we're going to talk about how to move like our bodies, gently, intentionally, without forcing or burning everything down, because midlife isn't about proving anything anymore. It's about participating in our lives. Participating in our lives on purpose, friends. We're a bunch of badass millennial midlifers. Or if you're Gen X, whatever generation you are. I love being in midlife. And I love that you listened to this episode. Please just do me a small favor. Leave me a 5-star review. Subscribe to the podcast. Share it with your friends. A couple little clicks means the world to me, and it helps this podcast get out there to somebody who might need to hear it. Can't wait to talk about moving next week and how we want to move our bodies. And I can't wait to see what 2026 holds for the Midlife Edit. I know that there's been a lot of solo episodes, and this is kind of the month where I'm really diving into the how-tos. There are going to be some really, really great interviews that I have coming up, but January, it's just me, friends. Thanks for being here. And until next week or the week after, first off, go take that quiz. Let me know what your results were. I'm really curious. I've gotten a couple of responses from you guys, and I'm just like, wow, because everybody's kind of all over the board, and I love that. And until next week, this is the Midlife Edit. Let's make it a damn good chapter. You've been listening to the Midlife Edit. If something in this episode stayed with you, I hope you sit with it, not rush past it, because this season is about listening to yourself and to what's quietly asking for more. If you want to stay connected between episodes, you can join the Backstage Pass. That's where I share behind-the-scenes notes, playlists, and things that don't always make it onto the podcast. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, it would mean so much if you'd subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's the easiest way to support the show and help more women find it. So until next time, turn the volume up, and let's make it a damn good chapter.